What's up guys, Ivan Carranza here and welcome to Bass Tone Tuesday. Today we're gonna talk about note duration or note length. As bass players as well, we pay a lot of attention, when we're supposed to play. When are we supposed to play each note? But paying attention to when you should stop a note is also very, very important, and it might seem like a minor detail, but it can have a big impact in your overall sound. If you pay attention to the first example that I showed, I was cutting my notes on a very specific place, and I'm gonna replay the same example but with only a snare drum, so you can listen to it again. So the very first note, that is a D, I'm playing that until the snare comes. So I'm stopping the note on beat 2 and then playing those octaves. But that's a very conscious decision to really stop the note there. If I play too short or too long, it sounds different. But by cutting the note right when the snare drum comes, you're doing two things. First, you're leaving room for the snare, and it also makes the snare pop a bit more because your note is not there compressing the whole sound, so to speak. And then the next two notes that I'm playing here is a D and an A. They're also exactly an eighth note in duration, and I'm playing them with the beat 3 and then 4 and. And I'm holding them exactly until the next downbeat, and that is a very conscious decision as well. Most people tend to cut the notes a bit too short, and especially when playing, like funk bass lines, they make the notes extremely short in durations, like a very, very, very short staccato. But the problem with that is that you're not aligning with the rest of the grid, so to speak, of the subdivisions of the rest of the band. So you gotta pay attention to what the hi-hat is doing, for example, what the snare is doing, what the ghost notes of the snare are doing, where the kick drum is, what are the other instruments also playing, so you can align yourself with the grid of the other musicians. Playing the right note length is a key element in making a groove feel good. A great way to practice this is to grab a drum loop and only use the snare from there, or you can also use a metronome, and if you can take out beats, to just leave the 2 and 4. If you can't, then take half of the tempo that you're gonna use and then imagine as if that was your 2 and 4, beat 2 and 4, and then play just quarter notes until the click of the metronome or until the snare comes. So it will be something like this. You can expand on that and just play, for example, just eighth notes with the same tempo and the same snare, so that you are really just playing exactly an eighth note in length or in duration, and then you can mix different rhythms so that you are, making grooves. And of course, you can also take bass lines or songs that you already know and pay close attention to when the notes are being stopped, and also listen to the relationship between the bass and the drums. And by drums I mean the bass and the kick, and also the bass and the hi-hat, the bass and the ghost notes of the snare, and all the elements that are being played on the percussion. Also the bass and the guitars, the bass and the keys, and so on and so on. What helped me personally to dial in this note duration thing or note length thing was playing actually reggae bass lines, because reggae is such a minimalistic kind of music. There's not that much going on, and pretty much all the time you hear these offbeat guitars or keyboards, chuck, 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 and the bass usually stops when one of those guitar chops or offbeats come, and because it's also, like I mentioned earlier, very minimalistic, if the note duration is off and the groove is not locking in, it sounds really weird. And an example is, for example, this bass line here. So in my head, when I'm playing this first note, I'm hearing in my head to know when I'm supposed to cut the note. Maybe this helps you. If you're not into reggae, you can do the other exercise that I mentioned earlier. Just put a drum loop with only a snare or a metronome and focus on playing just exactly one note value. I hope you guys found this helpful. Let me know what you think in the comments, and also don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay up to date with the content that's coming to the channel. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Take care.